Hi, everyone. I'm Dave.
And I'm Jeremy.
I'd like to welcome you to our Tech Over Coffee podcast. We're so excited to thank Chipola College for sharing this podcast with us. They give us this opportunity to film from this beautiful studio here, the main campus in Marianna, Florida. Chipola, what a wonderful place, Jeremy, as you and I both know, to talk about ideas. There's a college certificate, there's an associate's degree, there's a bachelor's degree for any area of interest, regardless of your specialty, of what you want to aspire to, what your goals are. You can come here in person or online. And we just love talking about research, current best practices, and often they're technology-based. And today we have quite a few to kind of kick us off.
Yeah.
What do you have, Jeremy, for us?
Today I think we want to first talk about the powers of cryptocurrency.
All right.
And some of my favorite companies in the area. And I really like Coinbase, right? Or at least, I like them as much as I like any other exchange. Like, it'd be way better to just buy it person to person, but that's a separate kind of topic. So we're specifically talking about Coinbase's direct public listing.
Yeah, Coinbase, that's a good way to get involved in the crypto environment because it's an exchange, and that kind of makes it more legitimate maybe in the financier's eyes. You know, that's where typically people in the financial industry will exchange, and public companies and tech companies, blue chip companies, and so crypto gives us an ability to look at it through the exchange lens. Coinbase is the first exchange for crypto to go public. Yeah. And they didn't do it as the traditional way of raising money through an IPO, an initial public offering. They did it through a direct listing.
Right.
There's only been a couple so far.
Yeah, and that saves a lot of money. I think ones recently were, I think Roblox or something like that. Maybe Square, I think, did a direct listing. But by doing that, you're avoiding actually having underwriters and a large percentage being taken. And it affects the way that the stock is done in general. They're not making new shares to be put out and be sold. What they're actually doing is selling shares that they have already. Coinbase has been gathering venture capital since 2013. I think a year or so after their initial conception. So you actually have a lot of these venture capital companies that came forward and were selling stock. I think Brian Armstrong, the CEO himself, sold something like $290 million worth.
Well, that's a lot.
That is a lot.
And that direct listing lets you bypass, like you said, all the middle people that usually get a big cut, and it raises kind of inflates the price.
Yeah,
the direct listing is really just focused on the consumer, and that's kind of the crypto spirit, the peer-to-peer. So.
Which is pretty cool. I was surprised that Coinbase didn't just sell their own shares on their website, but I don't think they can legally do that. But that's something that can be moving forward into the future. I think even Binance, a competing crypto exchange based out of China, and they do have a U.S. arm, but they're currently very big in comparison because they have this international market. Coinbase is focused on the United States only, which is a very dense regulatory environment to get into. So for Coinbase to be the first one to really go public shows that it is really accepted in the law.
Right, you have established investors, Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, others that say, well, we really don't know about this crypto thing. Maybe it's a technology, that's really the value here. But Coinbase going public with a DPO makes it legitimate, and so they're the first to market, if you will. So others will probably follow. Bitcoin, would you say that's a one-for-one? I mean, as Bitcoin fares, Coinbase will fare possibly?
I think they're probably going to be pretty connected, but already looking at it, at least on the first day, I think Coinbase, they did their listing on Friday, I think it was. I'm not going to give you dates. That's up to you to find out. So Coinbase did their listing and started off with NASDAQ suggested pricing of $250. Ending up actually opening at about $380, ending the day at $340 with a high of over $400. And then immediately after, Bitcoin price tanks by 10%.
But after hours, there was a lot of movement.
A lot of movement after hours, and but that's kind of how the market really goes, especially for something that's new and fresh, and something that I didn't know for anybody else that's out there looking to invest. For those public listings on IPOs and such, they don't go start of market 8 a.m., which is really good for me because I'm not awake at that time. I guess Wall Street guys wake up at 8 a.m. every morning and go to bed at market close.
But they're at work with the market open at 8.
Yes, right. And
so they're probably up at 5.
I don't know about all that. That's too much for me. So luckily, with the way they set up IPOs is they don't actually go on the market until sometime in the evening. To allow basically the whole market to build out an order book and to allow like trading to progress. So it's actually pretty cool. You don't just have people in a mad rush in the morning. Lets people like me get in.
And it's exciting for others in the crypto environment. So we have Bitcoin and Doge is actually has some impressive momentum right now.
That's the funny thing, right? So with Bitcoin price, it was over $60,000. It then drops about
over 6,000?
60,000.
60,000. You said you were going to let me borrow a couple coins.
Yeah, I don't know if I can do that anymore.
Wow,
that's
60,
a lot of money to just let you borrow.
Wow. I'm good for it, though.
Yeah, I think you are, but
that's a lot.
Let's talk about it later.
Okay, yeah.
You could borrow a couple Doge, maybe. So Doge price goes from like 6 cent to like 40 cent or something like that. It's like, if you don't know what Dogecoin is, it's like the meme coin version of Bitcoin. It doesn't really have an upper limit on the amount, where Bitcoin is 21 million. Dogecoin is somewhere in the mini billions. But Elon Musk really likes it, and it's really gotten some popularity as just being, it's a lot like Bitcoin in a few ways. It's like you've got a guy that made it as a joke. Not with Bitcoin. Bitcoin was made as like a serious prospect and like with a lot of attention and detail. Dogecoin just follows that same like schematic, but like adds a dog and says, well, there's going to be like 1 billion made this year.
Do you think it's kind of the anti-Bitcoin Doge? I mean, they both have their heart in the same place, but Bitcoin is becoming the man now, really.
Yeah.
60,000 and Doge is kind of just mass appeal, possibly?
I mean, it's a whole market sort of situation because, I mean, with cryptocurrencies, there's not just one be-all, end-all, and it's not like made by companies or anything like that. So at least the like true decentralized currencies. And Dogecoin's story is definitely one of being decentralized because it was made as a joke on Reddit and like used for like sending bobsled teams to the like literally the Jamaican bobsled team to the Olympics. They paid for a like marketing on a NASCAR, putting the Doge like coin face the Shiba Inu right on the front, which is really cool, and I guess is how you've gotten all of this attention to it. And there's like a groundswell there, and there's so much of it, and it's still really cheap. But there have been some people that have literally now been made Dogecoin millionaires. I'm not one of them, unfortunately, but
just with some colleagues here in the studio, they were saying, "Let's get Doge at $1." Wow, that sounds kind of selfish. Whoever was saying that earlier, man, that's high.
Maybe it gets there. I've kind of thought that as far as cryptocurrencies go, you can split them into like multiple pieces, so you don't have to have just one. But people like psychologically really like the idea of having whole numbers instead of like, you know, tens, like a tenth or 100th of 1,000th of a coin. So with Dogecoin, you can have hundreds of coins and only be worth a few bucks, or I mean maybe a few more than a few bucks now. But getting it to $1, maybe it's possible if Bitcoin is going to maybe $1 million or something like that. Maybe
that's a big jump.
Maybe Bitcoin gets used as this like almost large company, large cap, like big purchases. You're going to go buy a house, buy a car, maybe, you know, go buy a Tesla with Bitcoin, something like that. Big purchases might happen on Bitcoin and be settled in Bitcoin, with smaller purchases and transactions being done with different chains, using things like Ethereum or Litecoin, or maybe even Doge, because, you know, Doge can be the dollar of cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin can be the, you know, multiple digit denominations, and Litecoin's a few $100s, Ethereum's a few thousand. It can be somewhere in that range, who knows? And you can trade them all against each other too, and that's the thing, is that in total, the whole market is connected to each other, and they're all traded against each other.
And others are trying to get into the play on the periphery, such as PayPal, letting you kind of play a few, even though they're not necessarily liked by everybody. But
well, so PayPal's a different kind of story, right? PayPal valued somewhere about 300 billion, where Coinbase is valued somewhere about 100 billion. But PayPal is just now coming into the place, and they're like,
into the crypto place.
Yeah, into the crypto place, right? PayPal's been around for a long time as in the digital money space, which is actually a pretty big deal. I mean, they paved the way for, you know, moving away from having to use physical dollars. So PayPal now offering cryptocurrencies as an option is pretty cool. And the thing is, though, is that they're not really doing it in the same way that Coinbase is, because Coinbase is really like
a true exchange.
You get your coins. You can, it's just like a stock market.
Right.
You know, you can take your shares and you can do whatever you want with it. With PayPal, it's locked into their ecosystem for now. In the future, PayPal may expand, but Coinbase has already expanded into so many other things. They're working on NFTs. They're working on special purpose listings. Like, you can do all sorts of things that you can't really do with just a simple like PayPal type interface.
So just had an idea. Wouldn't it be interesting, surreal, if Warren Buffett, who is an established leader in the business environment,
an established
an
crypto
established
hater, by the way.
investor, who said, Bitcoin may not be the thing to pursue. So their A shares of Berkshire Hathaway, that is his holding company that does quite well, owns Geico and Dairy Queen and Mars Candy and a railroad, all kinds of neat stuff. I think their A shares are maybe in the high 300,000. Wouldn't it be interesting, surreal someday, if Bitcoin were to surpass that?
Yeah.
That would be amazing. And then everyone involved with the crypto push would just kind of quietly smile and just keep working hard. I don't know.
And, maybe Warren Buffett would be open to trading some of those shares for Bitcoin at that point. And be like, hey, you can take these shares and like get the thing that's like really worth some money. Maybe he'd come back around. He's just waiting.
I think he is waiting for sure. Yeah.
So we got a few other topics, right? We've got some cool space stuff. When we were talking about Dogecoin getting to the moon and being like so expensive, but let's actually talk about the moon. And NASA making some cool deals with SpaceX.
Yeah, Elon kind of getting the deal for SpaceX to take from the orbiter around the moon to actually land the astronauts on the surface again, the first woman on the planet, on the moon, and then the next astronaut to be on there. So I think that is the planned mission for 2024. And so SpaceX has that contract, and that's a positive step to actually have executed that contract with SpaceX.
Yeah.
That's positive.
Yeah, and it's a big really belief in SpaceX too, because SpaceX has been really pulling it off, really getting it done. And
had a couple setbacks. But
but it's like with any good testing situation, right?
Certainly.
They're getting all that the explosions done before anybody's on it.
Yeah, learn now for sure.
Yeah, and it's kind of putting the other companies to shame, and it's
could be why Jeff Bezos has taken a step back, right, to focus on other ideas, and Blue Origin maybe being
exactly.
one.
I was going to say Blue Origin is kind of being put out in this situation because it's like SpaceX is doing so many of the satellite launches. They're getting the astronauts to orbit. They're getting them to the International Space Station. Now they're going to get them to the moon and Mars and beyond. So
I don't know if you were in on this conversation earlier, and this is kind of just off the cuff, which is what we both like, right?
Yeah. Who doesn't love an off-the-cuff discussion?
Live on the air, right?
Yeah.
So the thought of SpaceX, the thought of Blue Origin, the thought of space having people on the moon in 2024, there's some push in Congress with the current administration saying that 2024 was just a PR push, and that was really just to say, hey, look at us, we're doing great things, and maybe 2028 is more realistic. That kind of made me pause, and I read that this weekend. I think in the Wall Street Journal, I was thinking, wow, let's keep that momentum going regardless of why we have the momentum.
Right.
Let's just keep it moving.
Well, I wonder if there are people that always want to be a bit more cautious, right? It's like under promise, over deliver. Some people really like to.
It's the opposite of Elon.
Yeah, he really likes to over promise and
over deliver.
And try to over deliver. Right. And often you don't meet that big expectation, but you still can get something that's really good. And I think that's still great. And honestly, with the way that progress is going, if they get the rockets up, they're producing them quickly. It can be done very quickly. It's just a matter of how fast are you willing to go. And historically, NASA has been very slow for build a single rocket, get it tested and done, and then we'll do one launch this year.
I think you said that very politely, because when was the last time we were on the moon? Was it like last year? I think in the 70s.
It may have.
So that really isn't acceptable.
You say 2070s? What year is it?
It's been a while.
1970? That's a long, long time ago. Yeah. And that's what, 50, 60 years or something like that.
So we need to keep the push going, I think.
Yeah. And SpaceX is doing so many more rocket launches than any other company in the space.
You were about to say that Starlink will be available
Yeah.
for us in the Panhandle of Florida, maybe in the coming year, possibly.
I think Elon's even said that as far as tweets go, and you know got to trust Elon time on this, right? So it's they're
He's
suggesting
proactive. He kind of
Yeah.
likes to catch your interest
they're
with
saying
his tweets.
by summer
Ooh.
Starlink might be out of beta, meaning access to all of North America.
Wow. So that means just having really good high-speed internet access wherever you're at
Yeah.
in the States.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's
Now,
amazing.
there's probably not going to be enough connection for somebody in a massive city like New York or San Francisco or something like that, but it's perfect for all of those people that are in rural areas that don't have access to anything better than some less than good services like HughesNet or Viasat.
Right.
Because this is going to be like cable-like connections. I mean, people even under the beta are getting upwards of 100 megabit connection, which is
Fantastic.
very good for
Coaxial cable speed, almost fiber
yeah,
speed. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, fiber speed you can get upwards of a gigabit,
Right.
but then it's all about your service providers, and most service providers don't really like to help you out on that end. I know I work with TDS as our home internet provider, and they are not great.
Well, we didn't mean to name
So,
anyone.
Hey,
Just
I'm
as
gonna
for an
name you.
example.
TDS, I'm looking at you. You suck.
All right, Jerry. Okay, let's keep going.
Yeah,
Terry.
So I mean, other than TDS not being great, we've got Tesla doing cool stuff. So you got Tesla, Starlink doing really nice things, better service than TDS might provide, and so Tesla is looking at their new semi launches happening hopefully sometime by the end of the year.
That is amazing for semi trucks.
Yeah.
A Tesla semi truck.
A full electric semi truck.
That
And
is the future's so bright.
you've got Amazon that's ordered them. You've got some large trucking companies that have ordered them. I think FedEx is looking into them. And then it's going to be on the wait for the infrastructure to be built out. And part of that infrastructure is service centers, right? For any of these vehicles, especially commercial vehicles, maintenance is highly important. For a standard, diesel semi, you're, getting oil changes every 10,000 miles and, services every million miles or something like that. I've got the family in the trucking industry, so that's how I kind of know these things. My dad just put another million miles on his current truck, which is insane. But that's standard intervals. So Tesla's hoping for the Tesla Semi to last million mile plus. Before you have to start swapping batteries and motors and things.
Just really curious where these tech companies are kind of starting to overlap.
Mm-hmm.
So if Tesla has their own vehicles and they could potentially get into this logistics business,
Yeah.
supply chain management, Amazon's looking at pretty soon FedEx, UPS, why outsource it when you can do it yourself? They're going to be competing on all different levels of making product, delivering it.
Yeah,
it's fascinating.
The first customer for the Tesla Semi is going to be Tesla because they're going to make the trucks for themselves and then deliver their own vehicles. Because currently they're using diesel, tractor trailers to move their cars from point A to point B, or putting them on trains. From what I've found out, they build them in Fremont, put them on a train, and then from that point they get put on trucks and then delivered to the final point. Sometimes straight to the customer's door, sometimes to a delivery center. And for these trucks, you got to have places to repair them. I'm seeing the first places that they're going to look at is, oddly enough, going to be in Canada, because I guess there's a lot of deliveries that they're going to have going on up there.
A lot of open road if you ever travel in
Yeah.
Canada. I mean,
Canada's very widespread, and it's sparsely populated from what I understand. It's
Most
you've
certainly.
got a lot of people, but they're in specific points on different sides of the country.
and much smaller population-wise in the
Yeah.
U.S., so that would be a great way to test it out. So.
Yeah, and it's going to be something that they're going to need, and especially for a big market like commercial semi-trucks. That's very big, and if they really break into that, and especially being the first electric producer of semi-trucks, you've got other competition, but they're just not quite holding up. So we'll kind of see how it goes.
I wonder if we'll see these silos, these tech companies kind of break down, just kind of brainstorming. I wonder if Amazon and Tesla would potentially, which seems like a Coke and a Pepsi thing, but partner up, and all of a sudden Amazon, instead of using diesel-powered semis, could use Tesla, and they could both win.
It could totally happen. You have that
That'd
a
be
lot.
really
where
creative.
You have partnerships, right? Because it's like you have a big push to move towards better energy production. You want to move away from as much carbon, production as we can. You don't really want to be running on exploding old dinosaurs, right? So, and diesel trucks are a big producer of pollution. It's an unfortunate fact, but it's the linchpin of our whole economy. Everything is delivered by a diesel truck at some point. So if you can have companies like Amazon, Walmart, these biggest employers actually, these two, Walmart and Amazon, we've talked about that before, moving to sustainable vehicles, and especially for their own inside production, right? Because Amazon is a big mover of their own freight. They move a lot of freight around the country to their own distribution centers, and if they can have infrastructure set up at these points, they can have this electric truck that they own in-house with drivers that they hire in-house and move them between, and they're not having that expense going out, or they're just paying for electricity that they can hopefully produce with solar power or something other renewable.
It's exciting thinking about these new jobs that may be created, that you may have your own trucking company, and next thing you know, you may have these fleet of EVs that are semis, and so you might learn how to work on them, service them, may partner more with Tesla. So many of the new jobs are going to be maybe modified ones already in place, and just exciting ones that will pop up where you least expect it. So that's really exciting, thinking about this technology push will lead to more opportunities and more jobs for those in the marketplace.
And ultimately a cleaner earth.
Yes.
Right? Like, I mean, you're moving towards like sustainable infrastructures and businesses that are focused on those sustainable infrastructures. And they're things that are, it's cleaner to work on an electric vehicle than it is on a diesel truck. There's lots of grease and lots of oil and mess. People prefer to work on an electric car versus a normal car, trust me.
Great. Well, awesome topics, Jeremy. And look forward to building on some of these topics next week. And thank you for all your hard work.
Oh, yes. Thank you.